Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. Uh, what up? Chronologically, it's June 11th, and this has been such an amazing week. And being with Darren Darnborough right now is the culmination of what has been a spectacular week for me, because anything with film and acting, that whole world means a hell of a lot to me, and I guess the gods had orchestrated that. On Monday, I just started to mention to Darren, I got a chance to interview Lindsay Krause, an Academy Award nominee for Places in the Heart, and we talked for a long time. I mean, a long time, because I love this stuff. I didn't get a chance to tell Darren that movies changed my whole life around, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a movie. My life changed real fast. My life changed irrevocably 20 plus years ago when I went to watch Casablanca. And I watched Casablanca, and at the very end, Bogart shoots the bad guy, and Claude Rains picks up a bottle of Vichy water and throws it in the garbage, because anything with the word Vichy in it back in those days was a bad word. 1942, throws it in the garbage. I grabbed my head, and my wife yelled, "Are you all right? What happened?" And I'm yelling, "Oh my God, there's a novel in my head." So I wrote my first novel based on watching Casablanca, and that I retired from Luxottica, and suddenly I'm a journalist. I had a cable TV talk show. I'm doing this. I taught at Rutgers, all because of a movie. So the fact that that's part of your life, uh, Darren,
Mhm.
it makes this even more meaningful and poignant. So this should be, and we're going to talk about. We auditioned something I knew nothing about Verticast, which is back there. We're going to talk about vertical microdrama, which I'm learning about, and the changing world. And the world is changing, and you are in such a wonderful position as an entrepreneur and an actor. So we'll talk all about that. My monologue has just concluded. So why don't you do a little bit of an intro, and then we'll kind of jump.
Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here and chat to you. You seem like you've got a lot of information and knowledge about the film business, and you're passionate, which is one of the things we love.
I am passionate about it. To me, it's everything. It's spirit and motivation and history and future and present, and I'm learning so much about acting. What you have to do to act. It's such a precious, wonderful profession that's difficult. And again, I love it. So, you, Darren, have built a successful career not only as an actor but as an entrepreneur. Which came first, actually, being a business person or like a performer?
It actually came side by side, to be honest with you. Ever since I was very young, I always liked performing. Did it at school, did it in the weekend clubs. And I always liked business. I remember starting like small, stupid businesses in the schoolyard. I had several different, entrepreneurial ideas that you do at that age. And then actually, once I, hit adulthood, 16 plus, I was working both professionally as an actor and running businesses. Or at least having entrepreneurial ideas that turned into businesses. Maybe I think my first real business was when I was like 19. But before that, my entrepreneurial efforts were there for
Wow,
sure.
wow. Um, did any lessons from acting help you become a CEO? Were you able to feed off?
Yeah, you know what? Business in anything is sales, isn't it? If you can't sell what you're doing, then you can't really run a business, especially not a small business. Like you have to wear many hats when you're starting a business from scratch. Not It's a little different if you're raising a ton of money and getting in a big team, but when you start small business from scratch, you've got to be the salesperson. So I suppose acting helps with a couple of things with that. It helps you be personable. understand about building relationships. You're used to meeting a ton of people all the time and trying to be as best you can to be affable and build that relationship. And also, I don't want to say you're used to hearing no a lot, because I think that's a bit of a fallacy in our business. We don't often get told no as an actor. We just don't get the job, which is not getting the sale. And so I think the idea that you have to put yourself out there a lot in order to receive the sale or the audition or the job is the same in both business and acting.
Okay. Okay. Was there a time when you realized you wanted to build companies, not just perform? You wanted to do both?
Yeah, when I realized when I first became a professional actor and had to be available for auditions, I was 16, and I realized two things: that you can get very well paid for acting, and it's really enjoyable, but it's very few and far between. And so for because of how I grew up and my mindset, I was like, okay, I need to be consistent. So you're taught from I guess social pressure that you need another job. That's everybody thinks that as an actor, because it's a hard profession to go into. But I was acutely aware that having any other kind of job that didn't allow me my full schedule on my own terms was going to be difficult. And so what I did was proactively thought, well, if I run my own business on my own time, then I'll be available for my auditions. I won't have to ask my boss to leave work for an audition or a job. And I'll never have to be in the position my friends were, where they had to choose between the acting job and keeping their day job or their part-time job. And a lot of my friends, they would work in restaurants and things like that. And they get a week on set and they would have to turn it down or risk losing their regular job. And I didn't want to be in that position.
Right. But it's funny. I actually auditioned as a goof for War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg. I actually went to the audition as a goof, and they actually called me. It was actually being shot in Newark, my hometown. And I don't know what possessed me. It was back in the late 90s. So I actually went to the audition and as a goof and took pictures and blah blah and a few weeks later they called me to be in War of the Worlds. I mean, as an extra. I'm not going to have
Can you get it?
No. Maybe the biggest mistake of my life. They called me and what you just said. That's why I thought of this. I realized it was an 8-day shoot for that opening scene. And it would have been 8 days, and I was working, and I couldn't take off like 8 days, so I was torn.
There you go. I didn't ever want to be torn like that.
I was torn, and so I said no. But the last thing I said to her was, maybe if something else comes up, call me. Just kind of leaving the door open a little bit. And that was on a Friday afternoon. Monday she called. I'm 6'5". You can't tell. So maybe they wanted somebody tall. I don't know. And she called me again, said, we have something else for you. And then the biggest mistake of my life, for sure, was it went to my head that now they called me twice. So I said to her, I'll do it, but I want a guarantee of screen time. To which she
you were
yes.
negotiating your contract. I love it.
Oh, yeah. And she said, what? She said, we don't even give that to Tom Cruise. Why are we going to give it to you? So I passed on that terrible mistake that I live with every day that I would. So be it. But anyway, moving on.
I appreciate your confidence there, though.
But, listening to you, it made me think of that. A terrible mistake. And I'm not an actor. But whatever. So what was it like leaving England, the UK, and coming and starting all over in Hollywood? Tough place, Hollywood.
Listen, it was very exciting. I moved to Hollywood in 2006, and I was so ready to leave England, not because England's bad, but I was just getting bored and a little impatient with the industry. I was getting a little.
Here's Richard.
Oh, Richard's going to jump in now.
Okay, perfect.
But Hollywood was very, very exciting when I first moved there. And it was like you had to build your career up from the ground up again because no one knew who I was when I moved there. And, it was starting again in many ways, but also it was exciting because I'd moved from a place where I had a community of people that were acting, but not everyone was in the film business. And you suddenly move to this environment where you feel like everyone is part of the same journey, which was really exciting.
Okay.
And Richard has a Hollywood story. Richard's just joined us,
Yes.
co-founder, actor, and he has a very exciting first time in Hollywood story, didn't he, Rich?
Throw it out there. Hello, Richard. I'm Calvin. Nice to meet you.
Calvin, nice to meet you. Thanks for having us on. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I don't know what you've been talking about. Just sorry to miss the first bit, but yeah, I was quite a young actor, and I had a film in Sundance. I was the lead actor in a film in Sundance. I had no idea what Sundance was. I completely, I don't even know how, but I had no idea. And I had a very large agency. Michael Ovitz started a company called AMG. It was the first management company when managers started to split off from late 90s. And he, one of his agents said, I really, really like this actor to the director of this film. I really like him. He should pop in next time he's in town. Pop in next time he's in town. So I was in the UK. I heard about this from the director. So I literally got a phone call, put the phone down, got a credit card, booked a flight, flew over, and I signed with that agency, and I had some amazing auditions. And that was yeah, a long time ago. That was my first trip to Hollywood.
Wow.
He auditioned for Spider-Man.
Wow.
I did all sorts. Yeah, one of which was Spider-Man. Yeah, one of which is the original. Lots of stuff. Long time ago, different times.
Okay.
Hollywood was very different then. I'm sure Calvin, you remember.
Well, I go back a long ways to this. And again, I said to Darren, your world, I just love your world, and it's not my world, but I try to jump into it as much as I can. And I mentioned to Darren that on Monday I interviewed Lindsay Krause, an Academy Award nominee, royalty. She was in Places in the Heart. She was nominated for an Academy Award alongside Sally Field. She was in Slapshot with Paul Newman. The Verdict, a heavy movie, but just a brilliant actress who only takes these heavy duty roles. But anyway, and of course I know I'm going to be with you guys, and so it's this inculcation of Hollywood and all of that that just innervates me and energizes me, and I love that. And you missed my telling that watching the movie Casablanca changed my life. Uh,
Yeah.
Another story for another day. So I'm going to throw out things in my little script here, and you guys, whatever you want to, whoever wants to answer, just jump in. So to both of you, what were you're leaving the UK and you're coming to Los Angeles. What are some of your biggest challenges you faced? That's a big move.
You know what? One of the biggest challenges I guess I faced was staying focused. It was so exciting. I was out all the time. There were so many people to meet. There were so many things to do, so many places to see that it was hard to not be distracted in a good way all the time. But I don't think that was I didn't realize it was a challenge at the time, but thinking back, I sort of lost track of time. That the first 2 or 3 years, I would not be able to tell you what month was what.
Okay.
It really did. It was very exciting and just constantly on the go. Yeah.
It's a tough business.
See,
I
I
think
don't
some people
think it
say
was
it's like a marathon, not a sprint,
yeah.
don't they? I think that staying in the game is part of it. Sometimes, I've made really good years being an actor, some years, and some years I've made barely anything. And it's a different life. And I've always had a different job. Darren has as well. We've been really good at doing other things. And actually Verticast and our other company, We Audition, brings together both of our love of tech and ability to run companies and do other things outside, but also in the same space. Well, I'm really proud of that because it brings the two sort of sides together. And it does for Darren as well, I think.
Okay. All right. How has the acting profession changed over the last decade? and where's it heading? And parenthetically, 10 miles down the road from me, Netflix is building this $1 billion studio. And in my imaginative world, I'm saying things are going to change dramatically with all this streaming stuff. So it's a three-part question. How has your world changed there?
You want to go for this one, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it change a lot. So when I first came over, when I first started doing commercials, you the internet didn't exist when it was that long ago. You would get biked over a script if you had an audition. Sides sometimes didn't exist as they do now because we didn't really have a photocopier at home. We didn't have printers at home. It just sounds ridiculous now. You get faxed sometimes. I had to, when I got an audition in England, I remember I knew someone with a fax.
Yeah.
So they said, this is when I first got this casting from America. And I was in England at that point. And I got sent it to my family friend's house, and I literally went over there and got it. Otherwise, you get stuff biked over. So imagine being in London. I would regularly turn up to an audition not knowing any of the lines, and you'd go in a few hours before and you'd pick up the lines to do the audition. That would be a regular thing. The fax thing was very early, but then this was pre self-tape, of course. So Darren's got a very funny story about one of the first self-tapes he did, but I very well remember doing self-tapes on like a camcorder and then having them transposed to a VHS and then putting those in the post for something if I couldn't make the audition. It was easier to go in person than it was to send in a self-tape. And then we transitioned obviously to having the odd self-tape, and now that is the norm.
Yeah.
So it has really changed. That means a lot more people can get seen for roles. There's a lot more opportunity, and also geographically, that's much easier. And now we're going to a place where people are approaching people for roles and seeing people's portfolios on Instagram and Verticast and platforms like that, and being able to swipe through the videos to just, yep, they're great. Yep, they can do it. Look through their portfolio of all of their previous work. You can do that in an afternoon and see everything that someone's done. Completely unheard of when I first started.
Wow. Wow.
Well, how I think it's changed in the last 10 years, really. I mean, self-tape being the big one. It's in the last 10 years, it's moved exclusively from a mix of in-person and self-tapes to exclusively self-tapes. Maybe 0.5% is in-person now.
One of the reasons we started Audition, wasn't it, was that browsers, your Chrome or your internet, whatever you have to use the internet, Firefox or whatever, started to allow to have video chat inherently in the browser. I know we have Zoom and everything now, and we used to have Skype and things like that, which were separate programs, but they were very new. And so when Darren approached me with that idea, I was like, this is a moment, because it actually would be so useful for actors to do auditions and self-tapes and have a reader. And people didn't really do self-tapes then. It sounds ridiculous. It was only 10 years ago, but they didn't so much. They didn't.
No, it was only when you were too busy to go to the audition. And
Yeah,
I remember times I remember times when I was traveling, around 8-9 years ago, where they would send me an audition. I was like, I can't be there. And they'd be like, can I tape? And they'd say, no, you have to come in. So I was like, well, I just can't do the audition then, which is ludicrous, really, because why would you not be, accepted to be interviewed for a job? You can't be there on that day when realistically what you are going to be doing in the job.
Yes.
Yeah. Huh. Wow.
Something I find quite interesting is commercials as well have changed. And going forward to your second part of the question. Sorry, Dan. The first
I haven't.
I think
I don't know whether we lost Darren. Sorry.
Darren, you can you hear us, Darren? You kind of froze. We lost. You come late and we lose him, and maybe he'll pop in and come back.
Maybe he'll come late.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, okay. Commercials. When I first started, you could earn 100 grand doing a commercial. You could do a huge commercial, and the interview process for commercials was a lot. You went for a lot of them, and and sometimes there'd be lots of callbacks, but the money sometimes for a commercial was life-changing. And I certainly, I did one big one and put a deposit down on my first property I bought, and I've done a couple over the years. They've been proper money. But things have changed, and now we're moving to a place where a commercial doesn't pay a lot of money. It might pay you a single fee, or some of them don't pay much at all, and you still have to go through the same process of lots of auditions and things like that. But they're also moving towards AI, and I did a nice piece on Instagram recently just talking about if someone wants a brand, wants a generic person, actually some of the AI things that's available to those people are beneficial for their brand, because they can take the exact avatar of what they want for their brand and put that on the screen. They don't need to go through that whole casting process of weeks or months trying to find the right person who's the right specific person. And they can also do one for different markets. They could have different avatars for different markets, and that's not possible. A friend of mine did a commercial where they filmed the same commercial with different people. I think you've done one like this as well, haven't you, Dan? That they
There's
filmed
three
same
different
time.
ethnicities of us doing the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is really easy with AI, and also the ability for them to do that at a lower price point rather than paying residuals is lower as well. So that has completely changed in the last 20 years and last 10 years. It's gone from being able to buy a house from that, and those brands having to pay their big bucks, and then them paying for all of their eggs in one basket. We're doing a Super Bowl commercial or a series on the big network. They're really paying the money, and now they're spreading their money super thin on hundreds of millions of different channels and across social media and everything. So that money for a performer is much less. I'm not complaining; it's just different.
Well, I think that got replaced by influencers, didn't it? Because now an influencer can make the price, like a big influencer can make the price of a house from one Instagram post. That's
Fair.
what, yeah.
Which boggles my octogenarian mind.
Right.
I'm doing okay in my little microcosmic world here. I'm not an influencer yet, but I'm getting there. Maybe I can influence armies of 80-year-old people to get out of the front porch and stop sitting on a rocking chair and drinking prune juice and do something with your life.
Mm.
You're proving the internet can reach whoever. So you
Yeah.
don't need to be just talking to your neighbors. You can be talking to the whole world. I was talking to my wife about this actually earlier today. The potential has never been here in human history ever to get the reach that we can get now. We can access people via Verticast, can do auditions or reach casting directors and be in anywhere in the entire world. Never in the history of human life has ever been so good for reach. You can make a video, you can put it on YouTube, and you can have the whole world watch it who has access to the internet. That is unheard of. Our grandparents would have been they wouldn't even know about they were born, the internet didn't exist. When I was born, it was very new. But the ability now is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm a big advocate of people making their own stuff as well. So I don't know if you talked about that, but
yeah, we'll get to
your
that.
own world and creating your own destiny, I think is a big deal for everyone.
We'll get to that. We're shortly going to just one more question in this segment about acting, and it's heavy actually. What separates actors, the actors who succeed from those who quit? What's that?
Patience.
Patience.
I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. I think there's no rhyme or reason to who becomes big and who becomes not big. Now that I've been in it 25 years,
I think you can see it. I do.
Well, no, let me get to the point. I think you can see it, but that doesn't mean that person is gonna succeed. And so my point is I've been in the business 25 years. I have seen people come and go. I've seen people become A-list. I've seen people blow up overnight. My friends, I have friends that I saw do their first audition and are now A-list actors. I've seen that journey, and they are good at what they do. They are very good at what they do. But they are no better at what they do than some people I know that are equally as good that aren't A-list. And that's the difference. And then I know people that aren't very good that are on TV all the time. And so the only thing that I've seen work in that sense is patience, because if you haven't got there to wherever there is, and what, you know, everybody's got a different level of what their version of making it is, then the only thing you can do is stay in the game, right? Because there is no, I'll do it for a year and you reach this level. There is no ladder. And no matter who tries to tell you there's a ladder, you can go 3 rungs up and then you're down 4 rungs. It makes no sense like other businesses. And
it makes no sense like other businesses.
Yeah.
It's absolutely right. There's no career progression where you get a raise every year, or like a stockbroker gets, you know, their salary doubled every year or whatever. It's not that.
Yeah, or junior to, you know, associate to partner.
VP, whatever. No.
It doesn't work like that. And then anyone that has that progression will then jump on a podcast and tell you that it does because it did for them. But it's the same as, you know, we were talking about spirituality earlier. I know people that say, oh my gosh, I started meditating and then I suddenly booked a series regular. And so it's because I started meditating. And my opinion is it's not bad that you started meditating, and maybe that helped. But if it was just the meditation, I can give you 50 actors that meditate more than you do that aren't on a series regular right now. So it's just, everyone's always searching for what that secret sauce is. And I think the only secret sauce is be good at your job and keep going at it.
I think so. There's something that resonated with me this week, actually, I'd like to share. I heard Audrey on Audrey Helps Actors, actor, We Audition member as well, being a big supporter of We Audition. She said, I'm going to paraphrase slightly, but when actors, you know, they might have done really well and had a bit of success, and they're like, oh, this is it, we're on the scoop, this is it, you know, we're gonna make it, and when they come off of that and they realize, oh, this is not forever, and this is just essentially a job, and they're doing something else, and they realize that doing it will probably just be a job, and not a very well paid job at that. But, you know, if they're going to continue, they're going to have to just keep working. It's no magic pill. That's when a lot of people give up. And that's when a lot of people go, no, I'm in it for acting. I don't want to do anything else, or I can do anything else, or this is what I'm called for. Or they go, right, self-reflection. No, if there's not a big end paycheck or whatever there is, or whatever they thought there was originally, that's not for me. And a lot of people do fall off. And I think she said it really well, as to when people realize it's a job. I love the job. I'll do it all day, forever. I'll do it without any money. I do it for loads of money, not money. I do it for anything, whatever. I love it. I love being on set. I talked to Darren about this. I love it. But I think the realization, when you realize, especially as when money comes down, money's not necessarily going to be there. It makes people reflect on why they're doing it.
Well, and I think also as you get older, you have more bills, you have more responsibilities, yes. You like nicer things, you start thinking of future, all those things, and that will send a lot of people off of it into something more stable. And this is how the patience thing works again, Calvin, is that you get people leaving the business because they start families, they want stability, they move areas, but less people join the business. And so the available talent pool shrinks with age.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Now, the opposite side of that is the talent that's still in the game gets very good. So that, you know, when you're my age or older, there's less people in your category because people have left, your peers have left. I know so many people I went to acting class with when I was 20 that don't do it anymore. They haven't done it for years.
Right.
But the people that are still in it, they're really, really damn good. So your competition is high.
Okay.
Yeah. Or they've won Oscars, or they've won Emmys or whatever. And they're like, well,
yeah, bigger resumes, better awards, better relationships, all of that.
All that.
Yeah, it's funny. Talking to Lindsay Krause on Monday, nominated for the Academy Award, she said something that was really. She said once she was nominated, she was warned that it's going to be harder for her to get future parts, and I said, "What? Well, why? You're because your price goes up. You're nominated for an Academy Award. You become more valuable, and you know if budgets are tight, they're gonna probably want to steer away from you. Isn't that kind of ridiculous?"
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but I heard that as well with the Friends cast, but also I think it's perceived value as well, and I think that's one of the changes that's happened in the last 10 years. Oscar winners are doing TV, film stars are doing guest stars and co-stars. There's been a lot of auditions I've had in the last couple of years where I've looked at who got the role over me, and they were legitimately famous, you know, as in they're like household names. And 5-6 years ago, they would not be going for the same level of role that I would be, you know, and so that's changed a lot as well. It's funny though, one time I got sent a breakdown, and the producers had written in the breakdown that they wanted you know, when they give you an actor that they want someone like that.
Yeah.
And the like that they said was my friend, who I knew wasn't working. I called him up and said, hey, you know, this film is looking for an actor that's just like you. But maybe you'd be interested. He's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know about it. I'll get my agent on it. And so they could have got the real guy, but they thought they couldn't. They thought he was too expensive.
Wow.
That's what's happening with Nicole Kidman, and then she's doing everything that they wanted her for.
Wow.
Right.
Interesting. Before I go on, I must, and I didn't in the beginning, I wanted to thank LaQuita Washington from QEY Creative Studios for orchestrating this and putting this together. I was sidetracked because Richard wasn't here yet, and I was trying to kind of get my bearings. But anyway, LaQuita, she's been great, and I don't even know how we met. You know, I have no recollection, and we met, and she found me, and it's been just a great journey early on in the journey. But she's been quite amazing in bringing us together, and other as I mentioned, you know, Nicole and Seth I had interviewed, and exposing me to, you know, Microdrama, which I knew nothing about. But anyway, thank you.
I worked with Seth.
Yeah.
I worked with Seth, yeah. And I actually met Nicole at the awards, the Vertical Drama Love Awards that we did in North Hollywood recently. We sponsored. And Seth was newly with Nicole, and he was talking about this new girlfriend. And we had a long chat about it. And then I met her for the first time. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that Nicole Maddox?
Yeah.
They were delightful.
It's so interesting once you get into this world. There's the talent names and the stars in that world as well. And so, you know, we've only just recently launched Verticast, but it's a whole different zone of names and talent and credits and everything.
Yeah. So, which is a good segue. Let's talk about what inspired the creation of We Audition, which I think is brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was born out of the fact that we as actors needed people to read our lines with, and there's 3 of us that started it: me, Richard, and a girl called Jessica. My friend Jessica, she was a well-known actress and YouTube star, but also had a job in a restaurant, and so she'd be working late nights, so she'd have to learn her lines. She had an audition the next day. She'd have to learn her lines when she got home from her bar job, and no one was available to help her because it's the middle of the night, and her audition was next day at 10 a.m. And so she came to me with an idea that we put together a group of people that were sort of like in a group where we would know that these people are ready to help us whenever we want. And I said, you know, this should be a worldwide database. It should be an always on worldwide database. And we spoke to Richard about it. He liked the idea too, so we built it. We built what we
Partly
needed.
the reason it was that the timing was great. I'd done another project which was like a really early Netflix, and it technically, I still to this day say it technically would work. I think it's a brilliant concept, but it was before its time. The internet wasn't fast enough for people to stream movies. It just wasn't fast. No one knew. No one would pay for movies. No one would pay for them over the internet. So that was kind of it was winding down, you know, and people, certainly self-distribution wasn't a thing. People laughed at the idea of self-distributing via the web. So that was winding down, and I was looking for something else, but also video chat was really starting to be possible. And this came along, and it went, actually, when I first met Darren, it was before we worked together. We met in Hollywood, but long before we worked together. We both were in tech, and I said, don't ever ask me to build you a website. I'll be your friend. I like you. We get on, but I don't want to, don't ask me to build a website. I don't want to do business, whatever. And then I think you came to me with that idea going, I know you said that, but this idea is really up your street.
I held off from asking him to join the team for like 3 months. I was trying to find a technical co-founder. And it was tough because I wanted a technical co-founder that would understand the acting business. And those two things are very rare. And then one day we're sitting down, being like, this is getting really tough. And I was like, there is one guy I could call. And Jess said to me, why haven't you called him? And I was like, well, he told me never to call him about time. And then I was just like, oh, screw it. Let's just call him and see. And
I think I was in straight away, wasn't I? I
you
think
were.
I
You
got
said it on, I Skyped you and I said, here's the idea.
on Skype.
I Skype bombed you. I didn't ask you first. I just Skyped you.
Yeah. I'm pleased you did. Yeah. It's been,
Now it's 11 years old and it's got 50,000 members around the world. It's really
Wow. It's
an
a
amazing thing.
worldwide community. It's
Yeah.
yeah, we really do have people around the entire world. You know, we have people in,
I think probably 100 countries.
yeah.
and it's brilliant. You know, it's you know, and I have a confession to make. The confession was about an hour and a half ago. I had no idea what all this reading stuff was, a self-tape reader on demand. So I
Mhm.
went to AI, I think it was Microsoft Copilot, and I said, "What is self-tape reader on demand?" It's not my world. So it spit out 4 pages, and I read it, and I pretended I was back in school, and I underlined, and I put a star by as the industry shifted heavily toward remote casting. And you talked about that before. I go back to Humphrey Bogart. When you're going to audition, you go there and you audition, and you're on stage and you're reading, and but so what you did, it was the right time and the right place in the history of the world, and that's where you guys were.
Things have changed. Yeah, it was the right timing. Yeah, things have changed, like you've pointed on earlier, for sure. Thank you for
Yeah.
saying. We've just done our best. I say we're like this sometimes. We're just like, okay, we don't copy anyone. There's people, there's a type of companies that copy us, and we are just trying to innovate and push forward and do the best of what we need.
Right.
My approach for business is have an idea and be committed to it. And then you have to like teach people what they need sometimes. And one of my favorite quotes is Henry Ford. And, this might have been misquoted through the years, but it's still a good quote regardless. He says, if I'd have asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse because they had no idea what a car was.
Wow. A faster horse. Brilliant.
And that, there's a school of thought that you shouldn't start a business without market testing. But if you're going to innovate, you can't market test because people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So Verticast came out of really our knowledge of casting. We said with We Audition, we didn't want to be a casting site. We didn't want to do casting because people do it really well, but also it's a winner takes all in a way. You need to have all the jobs on there and all the actors on there because then everyone gets all good. That's just how it works. It works best. So we didn't want to be a casting site. And also it's sort of been invented, that the way that works with submissions and bar self-tapes being different, it's basically working. And then people started casting from Instagram and started looking at those profiles, and that started to be, and we're like, hang on, well, people want vertical show reels. You can't get those on the other platforms. People want to just be on their mobile phone and do it quickly. And all the other platforms, even if they try really hard, they're not great on mobile. They're not. So if you're on set and you need someone tomorrow, you have to go through a whole outdated system of asking for a tape, and you might not even be able to get your sides on your mobile if you're trying to download them. It's an old system, and we're able to innovate in that space and bring something new to it. So we said maybe now's the time. So we said, let's do this in the vertical
It's always
space.
been right for innovation, but like you say, there's never been an incentive to compete with the legacy platforms on that. But this is not competition. This is carving out a new way for a brand new segment of the industry. And there's a quote that we just put up on our Instagram from another article, which said, the vertical industry is being taken seriously when someone has created the infrastructure for it. And that's what we've tried to do here. It was a new industry, a new silo of acting and silo of filmmaking that was trying to use old tools to do it.
Yeah.
Why are vertical dramas? And I'm not even sure I even know exactly what a vertical drama is. Why is it expanding worldwide? Is it because streaming opportunities and all this stuff going on.
Money and attention spans, I think, are getting shorter, but also accessibility. Everyone's got one of these in their pockets. Everyone.
Yeah, I mean that's what the founder of Real Short, Joey Gia, who is the first platform in this space, he said that the reason they started was in China. There are people that don't own a laptop. There are people that don't own a TV set, but all of them have smartphones. So he said it just makes sense that if you're going to create some filmed content that you want the most amount of people to watch, you have to have it on a mobile and it didn't make sense to watch traditional films that way because everyone's using their phone this way. And one of the things he mentioned was if you're watching, people are doing this at work or in front of their partners or whatever. If you're watching something this way, it's very, very, sorry,
yes.
For the listeners, if you're watching something horizontal, it's very clear that you're watching content. If you're watching something vertically, you could be texting, you could be doing
an email.
Yeah.
Never thought of that. I never heard that before.
Yeah. So, and it's just, it's more the way you use your phone. So it's just more intuitive now. And then the second part of it is people's attention spans. Like Richard said, people want shorter content. And so these are bite-sized things that you can watch on a 15-minute break. You can watch it on your way to work. You can watch it whilst you're filling up gas. You can watch it. It was, I think the guy from Holy Water said he did some audience data and a very, very large % of people watch microdramas on the toilet. That's an official statistic, which makes sense. I get it. We used to read those little books that you put on the back and now.
By the way, if you see me writing, it's because I am writing. I'm taking notes. I want to
Next
learn.
time I should take my phone to the bathroom.
I want to learn. It's so, yeah, and it's interesting because I have a new routine. I can't believe I have a new routine. I wake up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I go, I check my email on my phone, and I go to Reels. And for 45 minutes, I watch a million different reels and a lot of health because I'm a health freak. So I have all this little stuff on health and I'm screen printing and it for me it's such a brave new world that I'm doing this kind of stuff, the vertical, and I'm beginning to understand it, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's been actually transformative. I've picked up so much stuff for up here from that. Do you have going back to We Audition, has there been like some notable, interesting success stories that have come out of both, Verticast and We Audition?
Verticast is too early to tell because it just launched 2 days ago.
Oh,
now.
Sorry, I didn't know
But the
that.
success on it so far is a lot of the top vertical stars are already on there with their profiles. So that's that success.
Wow.
We Audition, we can't, there's so many to say, there's so many successes. We constantly get people emailing us, DMing us, telling us that they booked a role with a Real Audition reader, which is fair because a lot of people are using Real Audition readers for every audition. But people are saying that the reason they booked is they feel like they were helped so much from their We Audition reader that they are kind of quoting their reader as the reason they booked, which is really lovely.
Yeah, I would say that for my Gran Turismo, one of the reasons I did a big $100 million Sony film, and it was quite a late night, and it wasn't called Gran Turismo, it was called something else, and it was sort of undercover, but I recognized sort of some of the names in it, and I did a bit of research, and I thought, oh, this might be a big movie, it might be worth me doing. And I did it in the middle of the night, and I did an audition with Pete Luna, one of our people, but they wanted me to do one with the lines and one improvised. And I know why, because when I did the job, I was sort of part of a crew, and there was 2 actors, and there was some real tech crew as well, like doing the car stuff as well. So I think they wanted people to be able to improvise and hold that crew together as part of the thing when we're on camera, because they shot a lot of it, continuous. So I thought, oh, Pete will be good for this. So I went online and I just said, look, I want to improvise one. And he gave me so much on that improvise, just through the thing. He just really went for it. And I'll always remember that. So that, I think, is one of the reasons, because I felt in the moment and I did it. And he gave me loads back, just can't remember what he said back at me, but there's the stuff like just like we were a team and we were doing this thing together, and it came across, and I think I riffed on that, and that became my tape. And I think we did one shot, one improvisation. I was like, that's awesome, I'll send that. And I don't think I could have got that with my flatmate, my wife, or my mum. Couldn't have done that.
That's the thing. Every time I use We Audition, I get the takes really quickly because you're working with another professional, and that's really, it's efficient. And I would go as far as saying, when you look through our database of actors, there's somebody on every major TV show on television that's using We Audition.
Oh, we didn't think about that. Yeah, sorry, we didn't talk about that. The advice, you could be going for a CSI, and you could get someone that's been in the show, and they will tell you, know your lines, back to front, do it, say it quick, or whatever, whatever's appropriate for that show, or a Sorkin one, or whatever. They'd be like, you have to learn every single line pitch perfect. Or Vertical, someone might say, oh yeah, I've worked with that director, just make it up, it's roughly right, that'll be fine.
As I'm learning microdrama, I can't help but think, I grew up, we had this thing, and they're still around, soap operas. Is there a big difference between microdrama and a soap opera?
Really similar. It's really, really similar. The biggest difference is they're cut into short episodes, and that end of the show cliffhanger happens every 90 seconds.
Boom. Every night. Wow.
Every reel.
Wow.
Yeah.
You might have,
in terms of the shooting schedule, it's very similar. Lots of pages. In terms of the kind of the genre, yes, very similar.
okay. So I'm trying to absorb this, and I'm saying to myself, I'm an old timer. I hate saying that, by the way. I hate saying I'm an old timer, but I am.
Don't say it though.
You said it a few
I'm an old
times.
timer.
You wouldn't know.
I'm an old timer. Why do younger audiences embrace this new format, microdrama?
Do you know what? I'm not sure it is a younger audience. I'd say it was a 25 to 55 for female audience mainly.
Okay.
At the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is at the moment. Now there is forays into lots of other things, and people are making other different formats. Peacock recently cut a reality TV show, Farmer Wants a Wife, into lots of short segments, and they're really leading with that heavily. So they're taking a different approach to that with some other stuff as well. And there's a lot of other action and thriller stuff coming out as well, and some sort of horror stuff coming out soon. So people are trying to get that male audience and that younger audience. They are trying to, but at the moment it's predominantly female and predominantly based around sort of melodrama and romance at the moment.
Okay.
Seems to what sell. That audience clearly buys. They clearly sell. So those demographics have proved a model, so everyone else is jumping on that bandwagon.
Funny, you said romance, and I've written a couple novels. I showed Darren one of my novels, but I might as well plug this. This is there's a tortoise in my hair, a journey to spirit. I wrote this a couple of years ago only because I'm filled with so much spirituality. It's like haunting. I actually wrote Pope Leo in August because I bullet pointed a lot of this stuff. The point being, anyway, this has gotten 12 national awards, and I laugh about that.
Wow.
Including the Kirkus Star, and I laugh about that. And actually, I'm gonna probably sit down with a screenwriter just out of curiosity. But but bottom line, I'm into all these authors groups, and everybody's yelling at me, Calvin, you got to write romance. I said, I can't do that. I don't know if I could do that. I got to write, but anyway, romance, big thing. And we throw a romance out there, boom. And
I've got a concept that one day when I've got lots of time, and Darren knows that wouldn't be never, but I've got this sort of concept that romance could be something else. So you could apply these same models to other things. Now, I live in a place where a big superstar down the road became a big American superstar, whatever. But so I live in a little island, and I thought that the romance could be something else. So the romance, you could have the same structure for a romance, but it could be getting a recording contract, could be the goal, could be the boy. So you could have a female star with all the will they won't they's of a studio executive, but actually the getting the boy would be getting the recording contract. It would work for so many different things. It doesn't have to be getting a boy in a happily ever after in that sense. It could be something different. It could be winning in many other ways. And I think that structure might work. But like I say, I'm not sure I have time ever to do it.
I just want to
Just
go
green
off
light to do
topic.
that. Go and run with that idea.
Okay. All right. I want to go off topic. It's a question I borrowed from one of my favorite journalists. I'll throw it and you can both answer. You don't have to answer. So here goes. Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. Could be one, two, there's no rules.
Richard Branson.
Okay. Okay. And I think in my readings you might have met him.
I have met him a few times, yeah, but I've never spent the whole day with him.
Okay. Okay.
I've had lunch with him. I've seen him at a party, and I was behind him in what do you call it when you're going to an airport through the metal detectors?
Oh,
So
security.
we've had yeah, so through TSA. We've had brief chats, but yeah, a whole day would be awesome.
Okay. Cool.
I go through like different times of different lives thinking, wow, these people, you know, how did they do this or how did they do that? And sometimes when you meet people, it's quite strange to realize that they're actually human beings, because we really revere some people, don't we? And like, you know, like a king is still a human being, or a superstar A-list is still a human being. And I find that really interesting. There's so many people I can't think off the top of my head,
That's fine.
anyone in particular, but I do find it strange when I meet people who are famous or they're really successful. Their often humility and their normalness is endearing.
Nice. Nice.
Not always.
Well, not always. No. Hey, it is what it is. I once met Meryl Streep.
Oh, how was that?
Well, I actually went to watch them film a movie called One True Thing in 1997, and it was being filmed in my hometown, and I just went to watch them film it, and of course you couldn't get close to where they were filming it. It was all blocked off. It was a Christmas scene outside, and it was November. It was cold, and then they all broke for dinner, and they went to this like theater to stay warm. It was cold. And you know, I went with my sister and we had a slice of pizza for like an hour. And then afterwards, after an hour, we just walked outside before we got chased away. So we just went outside just to watch because it's so fascinating. There's a machine making snow and the production assistants, it's so much activity going on. And we're just watching till we get chased away. And suddenly I feel that somebody's standing next to me and it's Meryl Streep. So, you know, so I start talking. Why not? You know, and you know, I'm just telling her how much I admire her movies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then actually a production assistant saw me talking to her. And she was very gracious, you know, humility, all that nice stuff. And he sees me talking to her, and I guess he assumed I was part of that entourage. William Hurt, Renee Zellweger, Carl Franklin, the director. And he comes over to me and tells me, we got to place you now. So I said, yeah, sure. Okay. Takes me right onto the set and says, you know everything you have to say and do? I said, well, it's been a long day. You know, why don't you just go over it one more time? And he goes over it and boom. At 6'5", I was the biggest thing in that scene.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I'm in the movie One True Thing. Never got paid.
They just presumed you're on the payroll already.
That's what happens when you stow away on set.
Yeah, that's right.
I love that. I was on the tube one time, and I was just on the tube in London, like the Underground, and I was walking off as I got off the door, I sort of said, "Oh, you know, go ahead" or whatever, and it was Simon Callow. Now he's an actor, you know, from For Weddings or whatever, big actor in UK, or done all stuff around the world, and I'd actually done a month before, I'd done a movie which he was in as well. So I was acting in a film and he was in the same movie. And we never met. We never met in that movie because we did different scenes, whatever. And I was like, that's Simon. I've just done a movie. So we were walking almost side by side. And I said, oh, hello, I just did Golden Years with you. And we were just walking. We were walking normally on the tube. I just and I didn't mean to do this, but I clearly came across as someone that knew him and that we'd worked together. And he said, "Oh yes, that's right. How are you?" And he basically presumed that he'd forgotten who I was and that we'd had a lovely chat on set and worked together because I mentioned this movie and he'd clearly been in it because it was like a month before. So we had a lovely chat. And then on the tube, we sort of stopped and had a chat. And then I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I've misled you slightly accidentally that we've never actually met in person. I'm so sorry. So nice of you to be lovely to me. Thank you so much." And we went on our merry way. But I saw him then again at the premiere. But he must meet thousands of people. Everyone thinks if you're a famous person, you meet a famous, you think they're your friends, don't you? We inherently think
Yeah,
friends with someone because they're in
yeah,
our living rooms and in our hands, in our phones,
right,
in our worlds.
correct.
So
Yeah,
he obviously has handled that for tens of
sure,
years, decades.
sure. I always feel that you like know them. You don't, but you know them.
Yeah.
Um, Now to talk about something that fascinates me, AI. I may be 80 years old, but I spend all day messing around with AI. I got four different things. I even told my wife last night that she didn't appreciate this. I said I'm having a relationship with one of my AI platforms. And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "No, not a relationship, but it knows what I like. It knows, or I don't even have to prompt anymore. It's me, do this, do this." So that's the relationship. And she got all like bent out of shape. Uh, how is AI changing casting? Is it changing casting?
I'll tell you what we do on our platform if you like with AI, but go on, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, how's it changing casting? I don't know if it's changing casting in terms of how people are being cast, but it's changing workflows and
Yeah.
efficiency. A lot of people are using AI to do their work quicker and do their work better. Um, I would say how it's changing it from an actor's point of view. I mean, I actually love using AI to help me do quick research on my auditions because if I get an audition in, it comes with a bunch of information: director, producer, genre, production company, network. And sometimes it could be a brand new show, or it could be a show that's been on air for years. It could be a film. And I'm able to plug that information into an AI and just say, "Tell me everything about this. Tell me about the director." And it'll quickly say, now I can do that research myself, and I always did, but it will quickly say, "This director has done these five films that, they are known for doing legal dramas." And straight away I go, "Okay, I understand. This is a legal drama. They've told me the last few films, and I'll give you a concrete example. I once saw a script that I didn't really think was I nearly passed on the audition. It was very gory horror movie, and it's very left field. It was very there were topics and themes in it that I was just like, I don't know about this. And then when I put the team's names into ChatGPT, I realized it was the writers of The Boys, which is a huge hit on Amazon. So I now understood how they were going to approach this material versus what I thought when I first read the script is it could be done badly and crass. So I mean, it just helps me research things. And then I spar with my AI for character. So I'll tell my chat GPT, "Okay, this is my version of the character. This is how I'm going to play it. Now, what do you think if I was this or that with the other character?" And I will run ideas past it like a partner, not because I think it knows the answer, because it helps prompt the questions in me. So I've asked my chat GPT to be my acting coach. And, when I ask you about this scene, prompt me with a question that challenges me to think about my entry, my exit, my relationships, how I know this person. The other thing I love to do with a script is run through a script and say, "Tell me all of the times that somebody else talks about my character." Now, of course, I can do that, and I should do that when I've got time with the full script. But auditions are so quick these days. And if I am going to spend hours reading the full script back to front and doing that amount of work, but the audition is doing the next day, I would rather spend my time working on my role and getting as much information as I can as quickly as possible. And so little things like if you look through a script and you understand that when you're not in the room as a character, the other characters are saying, oh, he's hot-headed, he's an angry guy, he's always, looking for a fight, then I know what I am outside of my own scene. Now, if my scenes are just with my lover in private, I can draw from that going, yeah, but in public, I'm hot-headed. So how does that affect my character? So that's how I use it, is just really to sort of research and understand my casting.
I would say with We Audition, though, working with a real person does bring a bit of magic. That is why we do it. Well, I do it. The ability to spar with someone,
Yeah,
and read a role. When you're listening, that's good acting, I think. When you're hearing what the other person is saying and responding, and your lines just sort of come naturally, and you forget that you're actually in a scene, that's when the magic happens. And I think you can, and also it's a really enjoyable process. Actually, part of that rehearsal process, part of that finding that role, doing that with another intelligent, skilled, trained person that gets drama and can sight read and be brilliant with no agenda, it's magic. And I think that's really helped me and people I've met and worked with. And I work with the same people, actually. I will call certain people on We Audition because I know that they're good, they're going to be right for the role, they're going to bring in energy. And I don't need to talk about their problems or find about their family. I know that I can hire them for that time and they'll be fantastic, brilliant. And like Darren says, give me questions that I can question myself and then go away. And generally I'll go and I'll do a little bit and then I might tape it later. Or I might be knowing the lines and then I'll workshop it a little bit and then tape it at the end of a session, generally. And generally I do about half an hour, 15 minutes, and then 50 minutes filming it. But that magic is part of why I do it. And actually, I probably could do it faster if I just recorded the lines myself, but it's more fun. And I think
yeah,
that
I don't think that you should ever record the lines yourself or use AI to do the actual work. But for research, I think it's good.
Yeah, I agree. Really, because that's part of that's part of the thrill as well, isn't it? Going through and researching, and part of that process is all part of the building of a character. And then
Yeah,
you can
you can
express
build it
that to another
efficiently
human.
quickly and then spend your time doing the work with the other person.
Allows you to have that
Being
space.
in the
Yeah, it
scene.
does.
Because if you think about, as an actor, you've got to build a character and build a world. Now, I always say the more you can authentically build that world for yourself. If when you walk into a room as an actor, and I use room as in inverted quotes because when we're doing an audition, there is nothing there. But if you understand in the scene, if you understand your space, if you understand the location you're supposed to be in, a lot of people will just start reading the lines. As less experienced actors, they think it's all about saying their own lines. No, it's about understanding. Are you in a big room? Are you in a small room? Are you out in the desert? Are you on the top of a hill? What do you see in the distance? And when you know those things, when you've really clearly thought about that, then your eye lines are good. You feel it becomes real. Your scene becomes real. And that's what a lot of people miss, I think.
Yeah.
Now, talking about a casting director, I'm envisioning a world where you have an AI. Can AI replace a casting director? If AI is going to listen to all this stuff and listen to the actor and all this and digest it,
I'll tell you what we do on Verticast, if you like, and it's not replacing a casting director. I think it's a tool that will help them. And in the same way that if I'm buying an IKEA piece of furniture, I'll put it together with a power tool because it's quicker. I could do it with a screwdriver. I think it's going to be similar to that. What we do with Verticast is that actors, when they set up their profiles, they can, for verticals, put themselves into certain archetypes. Now, there are very defined tropes and archetypes within the genre, so that's quite easy for people to do. We've picked out a couple of hundred, I think, that people can self-select them into. But what what our AI will do is it will pass a script when you upload it for a casting director, and it will roughly say what the archetypes are in that script, and then it will roughly match with who's available and on the platform and has recently been on and who has photos and videos available, and then it will present those for each role. It will break down it into the script into its roles, and it will present who's suitable for those roles. Now, that's essentially filling out a search form for those roles, but it's doing a lot of work that could have taken a morning for a casting director to do, to look through a script and pick out. So we're essentially saying we'll serve you up the people. You still choose the people. You still need good people. You can still go to your own list, but we're saying, how about these people? So we're helping them like a tool. We're not doing the casting ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also think that what casting director does, part of their work is administrative, which AI will help, and part of it is relationships and knowing the actors, right? And so an AI can look at the type of an actor, and it can read their acting style and all these physical attributes, but they can't know how it is to work with that actor. They can't know relationship wise, is that actor difficult? Are they kind? Are they on time? Are they good with certain emotions? Do they listen to the director? Do they take direction well? AI can't know that.
And also a good casting director would see someone for one role, maybe a tape, and go, oh my gosh, they're going to be perfect one day. And lots of casting directors say that they do this. They go back and they go, that person I saw for that role 2 weeks ago or whatever, call them in for this because, that they'd be great for that. And a human being can do that and might have seen someone or go, they'll be a star when there's a role right for them. I'm going to get them to do it. But I don't know if that role exists yet, but maybe they'll go looking for that. When one comes up in 10 years, they'll be like, that person, I remember them. Okay. That's the human magic in a good casting director. And they also, that's the dream, isn't it? That they find someone who's just the perfect person, that is an unknown. The stats don't work, but that person is perfect. That is good casting.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's a tool. AI is a tool.
Tool. So there are some human qualities that can never, because I know actors are worrying about being replaced. You start reading about some of these things, and some of the, and I think they had a strike that they wanted.
Yeah, we avoided another strike this year. Look, I'll give you a little bit of news from last week. I read that Broadway had its highest revenue month ever.
Wow.
Right? Wow. What does that tell you? That people are valuing in-person experiences. So will actors be replaced by AI? I think it's like anything. It'll be a genre. It'll be another avenue. In the same way that when film was released, it didn't replace theater. Did it take some of theater's business? Sure. And then when TV was released, it took some of cinema's business. But now these things all just coexist. We still go to the movies, but we also watch things on our phone. We still go to see plays. And what the data is showing is we go to see plays more than ever.
In a similar vein, the car came along and it didn't replace every single horse. There's still horse racing and there's still horse pets and there's still, horse and cart rides for a wedding. But they're not the workhorse that goes every day and does every single thing and deliver the mail. That it does the job, so they become more specialized. When we move into an era where things are sometimes generated on the screen, there will be a market for other things and people will want that. I want sometimes an IKEA, going to my IKEA advert, I might want a fine piece of furniture that's handmade and it'll be different to the piece from IKEA. They're both a table, but one will do a different thing and one will have a different heart. If my sister made me I have a table made by my sister, I'm never going to throw that away because it's not going to be as whatever white as the table I buy from IKEA, but it's got more heart.
Well, I think it'll turn the acting back into craft and into art, to be honest, because hopefully. Not that it isn't art already, but if you think about, like, we have posters now, we have printed materials, but people still buy artwork. And if anything, real artwork gets more valuable as time progresses because it's rare. So perhaps if there is an influx of AI films, real actors will become a hot commodity, real films will become a thing where you want to go and see the real version, like you go to a museum and see a Van Gogh.
Interesting.
It's a nice way of saying it. I think that
Yeah.
is a market. And that might mean that there's a whole segment of career actors that don't have the ability to make a living, but that might change.
Yeah, but I mean, in all fairness, look, I'm on the fence with this. I was having a discussion with my friend this morning about this. They were saying words to that effect, especially with the mergers happening. And, you know, he is saying, well, you know, it's going to be hard for people to make a living. And I said, I've been an actor for 25 years. I can probably count on two hands the amount of friends I know that make their living from acting in the last. It's not new. It's always been difficult for an actor to make a living. And then some fly and they do amazing. And that's it. But it's never been the case that all actors were doing awesome. Every single actor out there was doing amazing, and suddenly all their work's been taken away. When we had the strikes a couple of years ago, a lot of people were complaining about the way a lot of actors were complaining about the amount of wages actors make. And it was quite sensationalist. Oh, we did this show, we only made this much money, or we only made this much money per year. Actors get paid really, really well when they work. And when they don't work, they make nothing. The problem is not really the amount of money you make whilst working, it's the amount of work you don't do. So it's an opportunity problem, not a wage per hour problem.
Okay.
In my opinion.
You, Darren, you mentioned, Richard Branson. Are there any particular like super lessons you learned from him that you've brought into your entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I asked him a question over lunch, which was I said, I do a lot of different things. I wear a lot of different hats, and sometimes I get overwhelmed, but you do a lot of different things. When is the right time to put something down and stop doing it? And he sat there for about 30 seconds in silence and then just said, when it stops being fun. And I loved that. At the time, I thought that I'd been given a raw deal with that 3-word answer, 4-word answer, whatever it was. And then the next morning I woke up and I thought, actually, that's profound, because he didn't need to say anything else. He thought about it, and that is the answer. When it stops being fun, why would you carry on?
Okay.
In answer to your other question earlier, Edward de Bono, I quote quite a lot, and I try and work my life around a lot of it. He does a thinking hat thing, and Darren recently read his book, and I've been working on principles from that book probably forever. And I think he would be a person to go through. And sometimes when you're an actor, you do have different hats and you're doing different things. When you're trying to be an actor, sometimes you also have to be, with the self-tapes and stuff like that, you also have to be a technical genius to put up your camera and set up your reader on your laptop, and then you'd have to light things and set up your backdrop and all these things. And sometimes that's difficult for an actor who is purely an actor and only in it for the craft, or only in it for the one thing. It's very difficult for them to keep going and keep doing, even going on the web and printing off your sides. And then it's very different from turning up, getting your sides and sitting down in the theater and just being in it all day for 10-12 hours. It's really different now. We do have different hats, and also then going out and making a living and doing something else, and then coming back and still having the guts to continue and doing that tape even when you've been told no 1,000 times. It's different life.
So you guys, the acting and the entrepreneurship, and is there anything that particularly motivates each one of you? And you've had so much success in multiple fields. Is there any one particular thing that motivates you to keep pursuing? And I know I've got my little motivation thing that I use almost every day for the last 15-20 years.
Go on, what's yours?
Well, it's somebody said something to me once I didn't like, and it was pretty denigrating. And every morning I wake up and I remember what that person said to me, and I grit my teeth, I put on a nasty face, I clench my fists, and it just pushes the hell out of me. And,
That's awesome.
And so I really, although I don't particularly love this person, I have to love this person because he's been a motivator for me for 15 years.
Right. So you take your strength from, you know, you use that anger or whatever to drive you
Yeah,
forward. Yeah.
correct.
You know, for me, the motivation, I don't know. I think I have it inherently that I just get up and crack on. And I'm not going to say I don't have down days. Of course I do. There's a roller coaster of frustration. Sometimes you can get really frustrated and think, well, why isn't something moving in the direction, especially with acting, is sometimes you look at things and go, well, all of these things have been done correctly. I've ticked all the boxes. Why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? And then I just remind myself that it's not linear. It's just not. The only thing linear is time and experience. So keep going, keep doing it. And the same with business, really. But the one thing that I love about business, which offsets the acting, as an actor, I feel like you can get to a certain level in your development where if you know you're good, and you can always be better, but if you know you're good and you've got a team and you've got agents and managers working on your behalf and you've got your show in your package and you show up to your auditions and you do your self-tapes, there is kind of not much more you can do. A bit of marketing, a bit of relationship building, but it gets to a point where it's diminishing returns. So you could sit there and do 20 more classes and it's not going to make a difference. You could recut your show reel 15 more times and it doesn't make a difference, right? Or it might make a tiny percent difference. The thing I like about business is when I spend an hour on my business, we are an hour ahead. There will be a new feature developed. There will be a new customer. We'll have fixed a problem. We'll have elevated something. There is a clear, I can look back over every hour and go, yes, that moved the needle forward with business. I don't always find that with acting. And so those two things keep me in check. They balance out.
Okay, I like that. Spend an hour and then you find you're an hour ahead. I think that's great.
Mm,
I wrote that down too. I like that.
thank you.
Last question. If you could reach and leave kind of a legacy for aspiring actors and entrepreneurs with one message, what would that be? Like a legacy type thing.
I'd say keep going. Just keep going.
I would say freedom as well. I would say freedom is the most important thing, and it's something that I've tried to live my life with. I've only had one kind of proper job, if that makes sense. I've worked a lot and I work a lot every day, but freedom is something that people in society don't have in today's world. And I think it is so valuable, and I value it over absolutely everything. And I think the ability for you to go where you want, do what you want is something that very few people have. And I think if you're an actor, you quite often do have that, and you have the ability to live your own life and make your own choices. And I think that is magical. And I think I would, if I could inspire people, I've been really lucky that some people have said that, and certainly some of my friends from when I was younger, if I ever meet them and everything, they're always, oh, you're so inspiring, all the stuff you're doing. And I'd moved, live in a different country, same as Darren, and big moves recently, and run a business, and I don't have an employer, and I have clients and members and all the rest of it. But the ability for you to forge your own path and not live someone else's dream is a privilege, and I would hope that I could inspire others to do that.
Great. Hey, this has been great stuff, guys. I loved every second of it. I got 5 pages of notes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so that's good. That's right up there. That's about as many notes as I've taken. So that's testament to both of you guys. And I really thank you and LaQuita so much for this. It made my day. That's kind of a Clint Eastwood line, make my day kind of thing.
Punk.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what he said. I marvel, he's in his 90s still banging out work.
One take wonder apparently as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Spoke to someone yesterday about this. Just go on, let's just move on. A lot of that is on vertical drama as well. Like, we got it. Just move on. That'll do. 80% good. Let's move on.
perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Truly, truly. I'm just going to stop recording. We'll do a 2-minute wrap or less. But thank you so much, Darren and Richard. This was great stuff.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us. Really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Lovely person. Thanks. Nice speech.
I love what you're doing, Calvin. I love that you are finding the joy and the passion in this, and you really embody what my last phrase was keep going. You mentioned at the start of this how many episodes you've done,
Yeah,
what percentage that put you in podcasts in the world, and that's the lesson there, right? Keep going.
I love that. I love that, and I do keep going.
Yeah.
And by the way, I for the Garden State Film Festival, which is one of the premier indie film festivals
Yeah.
here, I became really, really friendly with the founder and the director. So every year I go a little bit insane and I interview literally, for 10 days, 3, 4, 5 people a day. It's like crazy.
Wow.
Actors, actresses, directors, screenwriters, composers, and because I just love doing that. I love the smell of grease paint, sort of, and that's what I do every year. And I've met some amazing. By the way, there's such talent out there. It blows me away when I see the creativity, and it's so funny because now I've done over the last 2 years, especially, I've done about 80 it's so interesting. I've done about 80 interviews under the umbrella of the Garden State Film Festival, and one word keeps coming up in all 80 interviews. And you know what it is? Funding.
Funding.
But you're going to say passion, actually, and then suddenly you say funding. That's how it's so funny.
Funding.
Funding. Yeah. I mean,
Funding.
that's what most people need. Yeah.
Funding.
You know what? One of the things I'm proud of is our business actually helps people make an income. And that's what I really love, because, creatives do need funding, and there's so many companies and ideas that take from them, but we're proud to be able to be providing that opportunity for people to earn as
We had a
well.
really nice thing this week. Someone reached out it was like a group or something, wasn't it? It was a private WhatsApp group that we were chatting, and they said, "Oh, it's Darren. I can't believe your business, our business, we auditioned together, has more than once saved me being able to eat after I spent my last dime on my rent and didn't have any money. I've been online and be able to have enough money to buy some food." And I'm like, what? I mean, how brilliant is that people are relying on it to that level? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Great.
What a privilege.
So truly, and what you do is such a gift. It's such a giving back gift. It's like perfect. Thank you guys. Don't leave. I'm just going to stop recording. We'll do a little wrap real fast.
Thanks, Kevin.